Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at what the FN or globe key does on your Mac keyboard. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So it's been a while since I've talked about the FN, or as it's called now, the globe key. If you have an older Mac keyboard, even just a couple of years old, it just has a key on it that's labeled with the two letters FN. But newer Macs have that same key with FN and also a globe symbol on it. This is the same key and does the same thing, but the functionality does vary depending upon which Mac you have. Most notably, if you have a Mac with a touch bar, things will be a little different. But your Mac will also show the key as either FN or globe depending upon which keyboard you have. So here on my new Mac Studio I'm still using the very good previous generation of Apple keyboard and it has FN on the key. If I go to System Preferences and then go to Keyboard, then I go to the keyboard section here, it will call this the FN key. It says here press FN key to, and I could set it to something. Also here it uses the term FN key in this description. However, on my M1 MacBook Pro it has the globe printed on that key in addition to FN, and if I look in System Preferences it calls it by that symbol there. So you can see it says press globe to and has that same menu there. Also you'll notice a different menu here on the MacBook because there's a touch bar on this particular model. So it actually has an additional set of functionality here that you won't find on newer Macs that don't have the touch bar. But strangely enough it does actually call it the FN key here in the description. Alright, so let's go back here and take a look at what the FN key does. It basically could do two different things. One is it can change how the keys at the top of your keyboard work. So you have the keys labeled F1, F2, F3, and so on. They also have special symbols on them that represent brightness, playback controls, and volume controls. These are called special features. So when you press F1 you could trigger the F1 character, or you could also be turning down the brightness of your screen. Now which one happens depends on this checkbox here. When you have this checked, then by just pressing the F1 key it sends the F1 signal to whatever app you're using. So let's say you're using an app and it shows that the F1 key can be used to do some special function. Well, then pressing F1 would do that. However, if you were to hold down the FN or globe key and press F1, then it would lower the brightness of your screen. If you uncheck this, it does the opposite. Pressing F1 would actually lower brightness. If you want to get the F1 key to send a signal to the app that you're using, you need to hold down the FN or globe key and press F1 at the same time. So just switch this to whichever you prefer. A lot of Mac users don't actually use the F1, F2, F3 shortcuts in apps very much. In that case it might make sense to have this turned off so you can just use these keys to control playback, volume, and so on. However, if you find yourself using apps that are commonly asking you to press F1 or F5 or F7, then you may want to have this turned on so you can press those keys without having to hold down the FN or globe key. Either way, you can access all those functions by either pressing or not pressing the FN or globe key. Now in addition to that, with macOS Monterey you can also use this FN or globe key to trigger actions all by itself. And that's done by setting something here. So instead of do nothing, I could have it change the input source. So the input sources would be here. If I had multiple languages that I wanted to access on my keyboard, I could add a new keyboard here. Let's for instance add a British keyboard right there. Now according to this, since I have it set to change input source, and now you can see here the little flag there indicating my input source. I can click on that and switch if I want, or I can tap the FN key and you can see how it switches for me. Of course if you only have one input source set then it won't really do anything except show you the input source there, and it wouldn't make sense to have this set to this. You could also use it for show emoji and symbols. So for instance here in TextEdit if I wanted to insert an emoji or a symbol I could use the older keyboard shortcut Control Command Space and would bring this up. But I could also now use the FN or globe key, tap that, and it would bring up the same thing. Another option here is to start dictation. Now to prevent you from doing that accidentally, it requires you press FN twice. So if I wanted to dictate with that turned on, I can press the FN key twice. And since I had it disabled, it's going to ask me to enable it. And now it's on. Pressing once turns it off. And if I ever want to turn on dictation again, 2 taps turns it on. 1 tap turns it off. It's important to note that these are really quick taps on that key. If you press and hold, nothing will happen. So you want to make sure you just press and release as you would when normally typing a letter. Now my MacBook Pro that has a touch bar, you can actually use the same key, hold it down, and it will change the functionality in the touch bar. And you can see here there's several things that it could do. If you just want to kind of go to the standard, you would switch to just show the F1, F2, and F3 keys. And it would turn the touch bar into a row of F keys. Now also note that the FN or globe key can be used as a regular modifier key. And Apple's starting to do that a little bit. If you go to System Preferences and then Keyboard and then look in Shortcuts under Mission Control here, there's a shortcut for Quick Note. And you'll see that the shortcut there is FN or the globe key Q. But it usually doesn't work if you want to try to use it yourself. Like for instance Show Notification Center. That might be nice to have that as FN and N. But it won't register that as a shortcut that you can set. Now here's one more thing I want to show you. Suppose you have a keyboard where the FN key is on the other side. I've got that with my older Apple Extended keyboard. Instead of being at the lower left, it's in an inconvenient spot. Well, I can set the caps lock key to be FN or the globe key instead. Just go to modifier keys right here and then you see you can change each of the modifier keys and reassign it something else. So I could take the caps lock key and set that to the FN key as well. I'm still using the FN key as that, but now I have an additional place that I could press. So set caps lock to FN and now you can use the caps lock key to bring up the emoji and symbols viewer. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.